I'm the Director of Student Services, and I want to welcome you to Reed, Alabama. This is the last program for the year, and it has been a great year. There has been some changes, obviously, with COVID restrictions. We've had to do some things differently, but it's worked out great, and we've had to move along, and we've been able to continue, and because of live streaming, a lot of other people have had the opportunity to view and watch our speakers, and they have been great this year. Before I begin, I want to say a special thank you to the Walker County Arts Alliance and Jasper Main Street for providing refreshment cards today. So if you are with us live and you were provided a Los Reyes gift card, so go enjoy some lunch when you finish the program today. I'd like to recognize, I cannot go without recognizing our committee. Thank you so much for all that you do and your hard work. This program could not happen without you guys, and I thank you very much, all of you that are here. So if you're interested in purchasing a book after today's presentation, they will be available here. I think there's a special book price, and I'll let Rachel talk about that a little bit. But be sure you stop by, get a book, get her to sign it, and she can answer all your questions too. So at this time, it is my privilege to get to introduce today's speaker, Rachel Kaufman. She has a bachelor's degree in English with a double minor in secondary education and Spanish, which I would love to know some Spanish. She's a stay-at-home mom to her two small children, Levi and Hannah. This is very interesting to me. She wrote her first story when she was 5. And like great parents, they promptly put it on the refrigerator and displayed it for who knows how many years, right? So they were good parents for that. But she spent the next few years leaning into her creativity, expressing her ideas through the written word, through drawing, and telling stories. In the 3rd grade, she realized her love for reading and poured all of her extra time into absorbing story after story and trying to convince her friends to be cast in her place and to do those on the playground, so that was exciting. But she really forgot how much she loved to write until she turned 17, and then that spark was reignited. And so she has been working on her books, and we are so excited about her series and to hear about her new book that she's going to have coming out. So please help me in welcoming our speaker for today, Rachel Kaufman.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I am Rachel Kaufman, the author of Dragonborn series. So far the first book is out. It's Dragonborn and the Foothills of Fire, right here. And to start off today, I want to thank everybody for coming out to hear about the story. That means a lot to me. Any chance I get to talk about the book, I just get really excited. But I want to start today by reading the prologue of the book. A lot of people skip the prologue. The prologue's important. So I'm just going to read it now for you. It's Prologue, The Legend of the Dragonborn. The legend of dragons is one that you know. It's been whispered for eons by firelight's glow. The shadow our cover, the night is our guide, so truths of the past can with us collide. These tales full of caution and riddled with strife demand our attention. We're poised on the knife. For what was once done can surely ring true in the lives of us all, for me and for you. Hath days of before be pressing in now. We keep these stories hidden. We couldn't allow the chance of betrayal or discovery here by the one who destroyed them, the one whom we fear. Yet stories we tell without fright or dismay. The deceiver is gone and we're hidden away. So repose and relax, drink and be merry, whilst of old I bestow the legends I carry. Dragons were lords in the ages long past, and ruled the deep darkness, expanding and vast. But lonely they were, and desiring more, so all that you see from their talents did pour. The sun in its warmth, ablaze and aglow, the seas in their glory as they ebb and flow. The stars as they shine, and the moon hanging bright, to light up the sky in the depths of the night. The trees stand up tall, and the mountains are great. The land offers food, and the leaves offer shade. In rivers we washed and quenched every thirst. That's how it remained until all became cursed. Dragons were kind in teaching their way, not heeding whose guise might falsely portray a man who learned well and pleased all he met, whom from nowhere appeared an unassumed threat. Jealous desire and evil in heart, the deceiver came forth and tore it apart. He smiled and charmed in his beguiling way, easily leading the people astray. Though magic he had, and people he led, His greed was too much. Into it he fed and rallied his force, that which the dragons had taught, and used it to finish his treasonous plot. In stone he encased the 7 great lords, then came for the 8th with magical hordes. The 8th was more cunning, and took of himself the essence of dragon, and preserved it in stealth. Unknown to the man, the 8th did survive, in the body of one, with strength to revive every stone dragon to life and to flight, and drawing together will finish the fight. For age after age the king defies all, in man after man, until sounding the call. From his life he will leave, and in triumph adorn, to set them all free, the one Dragonborn. That is the legend of the story. That's the legend of the world of Pylersha, which is the world that I created. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about myself. First of all, hi. As I said, I'm Rachel Kaufman. She introduced me very well. I wrote my first story when I was 5. I want to touch a little bit on, she mentioned that I used to force my friends into playing my games on the playground with the stories I got into. I want to clarify something. I didn't really have friends. I was a weird kid. I was odd. So the story that really made me think about that was, I was reading a story about a cat whose name was Mucus. Like mew and kiss, like a kitty cat mews and kisses, and he didn't like his name. He was very actually ashamed of it because it was so weak. So this other cat came to him and was like, no, your name is powerful. You are descended from a great line of warrior cats, and you are powerful and you are strong. And he was like, I'm powerful and I'm strong. And I put the book down and I was like, I am powerful and I am strong. And I went to the playground because it was recess, and all of the kids were playing house. And they all had their husbands and their wives, and we were in the 3rd grade, and I went up to one of the real popular girls, and I was like, I want to play too. And she looked at me, and she goes, you'll have to find a husband. And I was like, I don't need a husband, for I am Mucus. I am a great warrior cat, and I will protect you from the enemies of our land. And they were like, okay, whatever. And so they played house, and I ran around the playground protecting them. I wasn't playing with them, but in my mind I was. And then I continued reading. That cat lied to him. He was not descended from great warrior cats. So I ran around the playground telling everybody that my name was Mucus. So that's fun. I was an odd child, as many writers I feel are, and if they aren't, then they should be. It's always more fun to be weird. Let's see. Whenever I got into high school, I started playing around with this. I was 17 whenever I finally decided that writing was what I wanted to do. And I was actually reading a book, and I'm not going to clarify what book it was, but I was having such a hard time getting through that particular story that I thought, I want to write a book. Like, I want to write a book. I can write a book. I've written before, and then I started playing around with what I thought would be good and what I thought would really, have power behind it and stuff. And at the time, this was, I'm 35 now, I was 17 years old. Dragons were not really a big thing at that time. So I was like, I'll do dragons. Nobody's doing dragons. Well, everybody's doing dragons now, but that's okay. So I was like, dragons are good. Dragons are powerful. I like dragons. And then I was like, okay, I need something powerful. I need a term that I can coin. And I was like, the Dragonborn. Oh, that's it. Okay, and then I started going from there. And I went to school, and I was sitting there one day in the band hall, because I was in band, like all the cool kids. And I met this girl, and she was talking a lot. And then she looked at me, and she's like, so what do you like to do? And I was like, I'm a writer. Oh, okay, what's your story about? And I was like, well, it's about this girl. She goes, yeah, we get it. It's a girl who falls in love with a boy, the end. That's what they're all about. And I was like, actually, it's a girl that finds out that she's the long-lost descendant of the great dragon Lord King. And she just stared at me. And I was like, there's a boy. Yeah, I'm not heartless. Of course there's a boy. And as I got into college, I started really working a little bit harder on the book, pouring into it a little bit more, trying to figure out where everything was going to stand, and I didn't really have a great direction for it. I had a completely different idea of what I was going to do with it, until one night I actually had a dream. And whenever I woke up from that dream, I knew where the direction of my story was supposed to go. And it was completely out of the blue. I did not know that that's where my story was going to go, but I was like, this is it. This is what this is supposed to do. So I started working on it from there. And then life happened. You know, everyone's like, oh, you may be a writer, you may not, you may never be successful. So, you know, I was like, okay, so I'll go and be a teacher. I'll teach. And then in my spare time, I'll write a novel. I'll write a whole series. You can't do that. So I did have my teaching degree, and I let it go back because I'm not a teacher, I'm a writer. So that was well worth the loans. And which my husband and I love paying. But I am a writer. You know, one of those things that everyone's like, I am this, and I am a writer. Luckily, I'm not running around telling everyone I'm mucus, but I am a writer. And I met this lovely gentleman not too long ago who asked me a question that I actually get a lot from people. Whenever they see the book and I tell them this is the first book of 8, they look at me and they go, you think you got another 7 in you? And I'm like, do not underestimate how long it takes me to tell a story. Anyone who knows me knows what it takes. They're like, really, only 8, are you sure? Yes. Yes, 8 novels should tell it. But I think that I'm going to go ahead and move on to actually getting into the story. So it is Dragonborn and the Foothills of Fire, and it is the first of 8, set in the world of Pylertia. And let's see. There we go. This is one of my main characters, Yuri. I'm going to read the synopsis to you, even though it's up here for you. The world of Pylertia is in peril. A descendant of the Great Deceiver has returned, and rumors of an army amassing in the east are spreading throughout the land. Eons have passed since the Great Deceiver trapped the 8 dragon lords in hidden prisons, and now, with the fate of Pylertia in the balance, they are calling forth the Dragonborn to find and free them. 15-year-old Adelie is the vessel of the dormant dragonessence, which has awakened the call and is pulling her toward her fate. But can she escape the clutches of her abusive keeper and embrace her destiny? Or is Pylertia doomed to fall under the Great Deceiver's rule? So, you can see how the legend of the Dragonborn plays into that a little bit, give you a little bit of quick background on that. And I have some main characters in the story that have been the solid main characters since the beginning. And I have added characters since then, and these characters' roles have changed a couple of times throughout the thing, but I do want to go through on the back her abusive keeper. That is the first relationship I want to delve into with you. And that is Adelie and Madame. And this is an excerpt from early on in the book, actually right after the prologue, chapter 1. I'm going to read it to you to kind of give you some insight into 15-year-old Adelie's relationship with her abusive keeper. Where is it? She spat venomously, whipping the willow vine across my bare back for the 10th time that night. I arched and bit my lower lip, drawing blood as the pain once again shot through my body. I don't know, I tearfully urged when I could speak again. She popped the vine in the air and I stiffened, ready for another assault. She huffed and wobbled around, sending shivers up my spine as her thin and aged frame entered my view. She gripped my chin with her dragonesque hands and forced me to look up at her angry, distorted face. Her eyes were darker than normal, and the fire cast shadows that made her cheeks seem more sunken than usual. You're lying, she said flatly. She always knew. I tried to calm the tremble in my breathing and swallow past the dryness in my throat. I'm not, I cracked out weakly. She released my chin and slowly squatted before me, her joints cracking as she moved. When we were face to face, I saw a flash in her eyes, followed by a sudden calm. She reached out, her hand poised like a talon and ready to strike. I flinched and she paused, then slightly relaxed. She placed her bony, cold palm against my cheek. "This is exactly why I say the things I do," she said in a motherly tone. I felt hot tears run down my face and cool against her hand. "You are weak and dim," she continued. "I don't know what magic was used to alter the course of the dragon essence, but I do know the Dragon Lord would have never chosen you to be his vessel." A tremble escaped my lips and more tears poured. "I have only ever wanted to help you, Adelie," she continued. "I want to do what is best for you and the Dragon Lords, and I know you want the same. This burden is too much for you to carry, but if you want me to transfer the dragon essence to myself and free you of this charge, I need the scroll you took." I shut my eyes against the tears and tried to push my fear away. Her hand left my face, and when I looked, she wasn't there. I turned and saw her sitting by the opening of the tent, holding the flap back. Beside her was the salve she used to tend my wounds after a thrashing. It burned fiercely, but healed without scars. She motioned with her head, and, relieved, I obediently crawled to the flap as she tied it back. I sat on my knees, hung my head, and pulled my hair around to give her space to work, trying to calm the tremble in my arms. She's not very nice. She's actually the shaman of this village, Madame is, and Adelie is her apprentice. She's not very nice to her. But I don't know how much you're able to gather from the excerpt about a bit of jealousy, a bit of desire there, that play on wanting something that isn't yours and finding the person who has it and trying to convince them that they're not good enough for it. And I feel like that's a strong, role in the book, is deciding that you're good enough for the cards you've been given and that you're worthy of the path that's been laid out for you. Because I think that's something a lot of people really struggle with, is not feeling like they are actually worthy of what they're doing and what they're supposed to have in life and things like that. So Madame was always one of my early characters. She wasn't always called Madame. I played around with a whole lot of names, so I thought Madame was just the best thing for her. And Adelie, of course. All of these excerpts will include Adelie because this is a first-person story. It is from her perspective, which I originally didn't write it like that. I originally oh my goodness, I'm a writer, y'all. I write stories, and I write them like this. I originally wrote her to speak from a third person, and, about her, and I only focused on her, though, and I decided just move it to her perspective, because this really is her narrative. And as I experienced in the third grade, a narrative is such a powerful thing, because that author had me convinced that Mukiz was this powerful, powerful cat lord, and I ran to the playground and was like, I am this cat. And nobody else was reading the story, so it made no sense to them. But I want to have that power. I want to help people really, really feel and believe what they're reading. And I just felt like the best way to do that is to have it be through her perspective. Everything is from what she sees and what she experiences, just like us in real life. So then another character, a fan favorite actually, is Yuri. This little fella up here. He's precious. And I do want to read an excerpt between Adelie and Yuri. This is from whenever she first meets him. Now, this might seem slightly disjointed as I read it, because I am leaving out a middle paragraph because it includes characters that are not important for me to introduce just Adelie and Yuri to you as a group. But whenever you actually read the story, it flows. I took the frail little kitten, pity wrenching my heart. I pulled him into the cloak and held him against my chest, his body cool and unmoving. He's so small, I whispered. What's wrong with him? Darcy shrugged and said, we couldn't figure it out. Whatever it is, he's not coming back from it. I gently rubbed from his ears, down his back, to the tip of his tail. His ears didn't twitch, and his tail fell lifelessly once I let go. I did it again to see if he was going to give me any signs of life. I could feel him breathing, but other than that, he seemed already gone. I began to pull the kitten from my cloak, but paused when I felt warmth on his underbelly where he had been cold as stone moments before. Against my better judgment, I pulled him out and looked at his innocent face. His eyes opened for a second, revealing a deep, unnatural orange hue, and a gentle purr resonated from his chest. It spread through me like a physical warmth, and a burst of excitement and joy erupted in my mind and heart. In the span of that moment, the careful path I was balancing on rocked beneath me, and my resolve failed. I pulled him back to my bosom and shook my head. I can't do it, I admitted tearfully, though it wasn't in despair. I can't kill him, I said with a smile so pure I couldn't remember the last time I had felt such elation. So, immediate connection right there between Adelie and precious little Yuri. He is he's definitely a character of his own. And that's something that you'll learn, as you read the book, that he has a personality. He has his own voice. Everything, he plays as big of a role in the story as anybody else. And I love animals. I have 4 cats. So I like cats, as you can see. But yeah, he's a very important, very fun character, and most of the people I ask, who's your favorite character, they go, oh, Yuri. Definitely Yuri. He's the best. He's precious. He's adorable. And I've had people be like, okay, so I want a Yuri. I'd like to find a Yuri. Where can I find a Yuri? And this right here is a Maine Coon. This picture right here is a Maine Coon kitten. But I have an orange cat at home named Oliver. He's not a Maine Coon, but he might as well be. He weighs 25 pounds. He's a big guy. He doesn't look like this. He's very round. And but he's happy. And that's what's important. And yeah, Adelie and Yuri is one of the original bonds, really the first bond that I ever created in the story. It was always going to be Adelie and Yuri. They were always going to be partners, and Yuri's role has changed so many times since the very first version of this that I wrote. And then next is the boy, because I'm not heartless, and his name is Darcy. And one thing I love about that is it's a girl's name, but it's his name. And I don't know why, it just is. His name is Darcy. And I like it. And it's spelled D-A-R-S-E-Y. And I don't know why it's spelled like that either, but I like it. And his name is Darcy. And he and Adelie are fun. Adelie is a little bit of a worrier. She's constantly questioning herself. She's constantly trying to figure out where she plays a role, how she's important. And Darcy is that character that is constantly telling her that she is worthy and that she is okay. And he's kind of, my comic relief almost a little bit without being too dorky or comical. So I'll read an excerpt it's a little exchange between Darcy and Adelie to kind of give you an insight into their relationship. I'm exhausted, I complain. How are you not? Let's find a place to rest then. It'll be easier to know where we're going in the morning anyway. But, I said apprehensively, Papa Theo said we had to make it there by morning. No, he said we would make it there by morning. It's fine. We'll sleep tonight, walk all day tomorrow, and if we get there late, we'll stay in an inn or something. We have the means to pay. That money is for horses, I argued. So we'll share one and take it slow. Don't worry about that. Let me oversee the purse, and you can focus on telling me how handsome and capable I am. I rolled my eyes and said, okay, but I already see a problem with your plan. What? He asked. What if your father wanted us to walk through the night because the path is dangerous during the day? Or what if someone happens upon us while we're sleeping and robs and kills us? Do you ever stop worrying? He asked. I have a blade now. We'll be fine. You don't know how to use it, though, I argued. Okay, stop, he demanded. From now on, you will refer to me as either Darcy the Capable or Darcy the Handsome. Those are stupid names. Then use whatever description you like. I'll accept Darcy the Brave, Darcy the Adventurous, and Darcy the Great. No, I said flatly, unable to keep the humor out of my voice. Okay, Adelie the Faithless, he quipped. Fine, I'll go with your plan, but I'm calling you Darcy the Jester because all you do is make jokes. That is not on the approved list of names, he said. Then call me Adelie the Rogue. Okay, Adelie the Rogue, this is as good a place to stop as any. He pulled me carefully from the path, leading the way slowly through the trees. How far are we going to go? I whispered. Until I find a tree that will be wide enough to hide us from anyone who might happen by. I could hear Yuri jumping through the underbrush and landing on twigs and in random patches of grass. This should work, he said softly, popping down at the base of an enormous tree with roots that jutted out on each side, creating the illusion of two protective arms wrapping around us. I sat beside him and leaned against the tree. Yuri climbed into my lap, purring loudly. Yuri. So that is a little bit of fun right there between Darcy and Adelie. Darcy's one of my favorite characters because he's so pure, and everything about him is, he really, I feel like, embodies love for Adelie. And that's something a little bit different about this story than I feel like a lot of young adult novels is. It is not a story where the couple is trying to search and find that love for each other or trying to overcome obstacles to be able to be in love. It's never a question on who is in love. That's not what the story's about. They love each other. They're going to always love each other. And it does not really matter with, the story. The story is something else. But I love love, so it's there. And it's not stressful. So the last little excerpt I want to read is about dragons. Because another question I get is, are there actually dragons in the book? Because it's called Dragonborn, and it's her trying to search out and free these dragon lords. And so that is one of the questions that I get a lot, and I wanted to read just this tiny little excerpt to help give some insight to that, and then I'll let you decide for your own what to think. Awestruck, I stood and approached the glorious monument. Each detail was illuminated by the fierce walls of fire that burned around us. He looked exactly as he had in my meditation, and just as angry. His limbs were curled up and looked as though he would strike out at any moment. The tendons and sinews were jutting from the stone skin, tight, begging for release. I stopped at his giant clawed hand. Gently I reached out and stroked it. It was cold, just as stone should be. In fact, aside from the realism, nothing about this statue seemed alive. Was he still in there? Did he survive? Did he? If you haven't noticed by now, it's definitely fantasy. It is about the world of Pylersha. And Pylersha is not going to stop with only this series. This is an 8-book series, but I have 2 prequels, floating in the air in the back of my head that are going to come, and I have a sequel saga of 4 books that's going to come after. And in every single one of these books, I have at least 1, sometimes more characters that are going to get their own standalone stories. Because just like in our world, something that might be the biggest thing in the world, in one part of the world, is not necessarily the biggest thing in every part of the world. And something that might affect everybody, that doesn't mean it involves everybody. So every character, every person in the world of Pylersha has their own things going on, their own stories going on, and this is just my introduction to the world of Pylersha. And I am hopefully going to have hundreds of books about the world of Pylersha because it is such a big, beautiful place. It's a world much like our own, and there's magic and power imbued in everything. And there are just, I have mermaids, I have one of my favorite creations are the Star Runners. And those are celestial horse-like beings that can only come down on the new moon because the stars are the brightest. And if you happen to find one and name it, it gets to stay with you until the stars decide to take it back. And they have their own secrets and their own power, and they're very beautiful and very fun. And I have taken the idea of fairies and and kind of tried to expand on that, where fairies, sprites, pixies, and imps are all different things in my story, where fairies are like the classical little, flying around beings. Pixies are like tiny little Amazonian women. And I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but they're these little warriors, and they ride on dragonflies, and they kill. They kill. They really like to battle. And they're so little, though. And then, sprites and imps are my little mischievous ones, and they're annoying, and nobody likes them. They're just awful. So, I want to go ahead and give you a little teaser. The next book will be coming out spring of next year. Every book will be coming out spring of each year, and this one is going to be called Dragonborn and the Rainbow Sands of Algina. And it's what I'm working on right now. I'm very excited about it, and there is so much more to discover. This first book, barely scratches the surface of Pylertia, and yet there is so much in it. And every single book, Adelie is going to discover and experience so much that she's never experienced or discovered. She has to travel throughout the entire world to be able to free these dragons. And the Rainbow Sands of Algina will be the next place that we are traveling to and experiencing, and I am so very, very excited about it, about meeting the people, about meeting everybody involved. Because I have a lot of surprises in the story and so much to be discovered. I love to discover things. I use that word a lot. Anyone else like to discover things? I know I do. I absolutely love it. So that story will be coming out early in spring of next year, maybe before. And today I have these books for sale here for $10. But anyone who is not here today, they can be ordered through our website, which is dragonbornseries.com. And they are set at a lower price of $15 right now. Normally they're $25. So I would now like to take this time to see if anybody has any questions for me.
Did any teachers along your way give you any inspiration for your writing, or do you feel like that's just something that you were born with? And as an instructor, I would love to know if anyone ever said, hey, did you have any encouragement that way, or was this just something that you were totally born to do?
No, I definitely did. In the 7th grade, I had an English teacher that she was honestly, she's probably not still alive because she was very, very, very old. But, and if she's still alive, I'm sorry that I just said that.
Depends on what you mean by very, very old.
You
want to specify what you mean by that?
At the time, I felt like she was in her 80s, maybe.
Okay.
And again, if she wasn't, I'm sorry. But I was young. From a child's perspective. But we were writing stories, and I wrote a story about wolves. And after I wrote a story. We were supposed to be writing stories for class and using our vocabulary words and things like that. And I wrote a story, and she came up to me and she's like, "Did you ever consider writing children's books?" And I'm in the 7th grade, so I was like, I am a child. No. And she was like, you should definitely consider it. And then from that point on, I wrote a poem for class one time, and she was like, I'm gonna give this to the school paper and see if they'll publish it in the school paper. It didn't get published. It ended up on the cutting room floor. So, but everything that I did, I wrote another like a paper over a picture. I was supposed to write a paper describing a picture, and the picture was of a field of flowers, and so I titled the paper Sea of Color. And she was just like, this is an amazing title. And I was like, okay. I'm just good at naming things. Yeah, I decided that I was just good at naming things. So, yeah, she really helped, I feel like. And she made me realize that even if other people don't feel like something is best for them, or if they read something of mine and they don't like it, there's just as many people there that will. And that's one thing that this is the only thing in my life that I can read something, and I'm like, everything I write is gold. That doesn't mean it needs to be there, and that doesn't mean that I'm ever going to let anybody read it, but that's how good I feel about it. And even if, I'm like, this is beautiful, the only time it's not gold is if I'm tired. I'll read it and I'll be like, who are you? Who wrote this? It wasn't me. I don't claim this. But everything else, I'm like, this is wonderful. It doesn't belong in this story or any story, but you know, I like it. So, and I think that's a very important, I think she had a really big role in that, because I think about her a lot. And I think about her encouragement a lot. Anybody else?
I have a question. You're writing about dragons and that normally take place in medieval times. What made you choose to use modern language?
It is in medieval times, the whole thing is set in medieval times, but as far as their language goes, I wanted it to really be able to relate to the reader. Because I feel like sometimes getting too caught up in making sure that it's spoken correctly might take away from the story for me. Also, whenever I was in college, I took a lot of Middle English classes, and I feel like I'm kind of an all or none type person, and I'm like, I don't think people will get this if I write it in Middle English, you know, for way back then. So I just decided if I'm going to modernize it, it's going to all be modernized. But it's also set back then. I try and stay true to, like Darcy and Adelie, how he was Darcy the Great, or Darcy the Adventurous, and Adelie the Rogue, and a lot of things. I did try and look up some things to make sure that I wasn't being too much now, but then, you know, we definitely don't go around I don't call myself Rachel the writer, or, you know, Rachel the author, and so I try and take some of those statements and stuff that would be used back then, but then kind of intertwine what we have here. Kind of like the way that I guess, I hope I can say this, the way that the script for Frozen was written, how they really speak very modernly, I feel like, but it's not set in a modern time. And I just feel like, you know, that's really fun.
Any other questions?
Mine's not a question, but I love your enthusiasm. I'm an avid reader, and I don't read as much now because I will get lost in the book and I can't function. So, because I have to complete that book, but I just love your enthusiasm. You make people want to read your book.
Thank you. I am incredibly enthusiastic and passionate about this story. So I try, and anytime I talk about it, I want to make sure that I get that out there, that not like, oh, hi, I wrote this book. It might be your thing, it might not. It's not my problem. You know, I'm super, super into it, and I just want everyone to know that if I'm into it, I think you'll be into it too, if you like fantasy. If you don't feel bad. It's okay, I still love you.
Well, thank you so much for coming. On behalf of our Real Alabama committee, we would like to give you that little token.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. If you want to get a book, please be sure and pick one of those up, and I'm sure you'll answer any other questions that they might have. And thank you for being here today.